Tonight, Arise Prime Time brings you a special exclusive conversation with the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, at a moment of what appears to be mounting political and legal tension for him. His party, the main opposition ADC, has raised alarm over what it describes as an attempted arrest of Malam El-Rufai at the Abuja International Airport, reportedly without the presentation of a warrant. The ADC says the incident raises grave concerns about due process, political neutrality, and what it calls an escalating pattern of intimidation against opposition figures under the administration of President Tinubu and the ruling APC party. In a strongly worded statement, the opposition ADC alleges a troubling double standard in the anti-corruption fight, claiming that politically exposed people who align with the APC are welcomed, while critics face intensified scrutiny from state institutions. These are weighty accusations. The ADC maintains that no one is above the law, but insists that the law must never be weaponized. So tonight, in this prime time special, we go beyond statements and counter-statements. Was this a legitimate enforcement action rooted in due process, or does it mark a deeper shift towards political selectivity in Nigeria's justice system? I'll be joined exclusively by the former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, as he responds directly to the events around him that have triggered a national debate. And later, in the time-honored interest of journalistic fairness and balance, the other side gets its right of reply. I'm Charles Anyegolu, and this is an Arise Primetime Special. Now, it was meant to be a routine return from Cairo. Instead, it became a political flashpoint. On Thursday, at Abuja's International Airport, security operatives moved to arrest former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, seizing his passport in what his legal team describes as an unlawful attempt at detention, allegedly without a warrant and without formal documentation, and despite prior communication with the EFCC. His lawyers insist he'd already notified the EFCC of his return and had undertaken to appear voluntarily on February the 16th. Any attempt to arrest him under those circumstances, they argue, would amount to a breach of his constitutional rights. The incident has brought the line between law enforcement and political intimidation under sharp national scrutiny, with Mr. El-Rufai's party, the opposition ADC, insisting that it reflects a dangerous pattern of selective pressure on opposition voices under the administration of President Tinubu and his ruling APC. More pointedly, the ADC accuses the administration of double standards, claiming that politically exposed people who align with the APC are embraced, while critics face heightened scrutiny from anti-corruption and security agencies. The ADC insists that no one is above the law, including Nasir El-Rufai, but warns that the law must never be weaponized against political opponents. So tonight we ask, was this an enforcement action grounded in due process, or does it signal a troubling turn towards political intimidation and normalization of selective justice? And for a former governor who once stood at the very heart of power, what does it mean to now allege persecution from the state? And I'm suitably delighted to say that the former governor of Kaduna State and former minister of the Federal Capital Territory of Abuja, Nasir El-Rufai, joins me now exclusively in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles, for inviting me.
And I know we're in February, but I ought to wish you a happy new year, because we haven't seen this year.
Indeed, we haven't.
Walk us through exactly what happened from the moment you landed in Abuja. Who approached you? What did they say? And at what point did you believe that due process had broken down?
Well, I came out of the plane and a young man that is well dressed with a nice suit came to me and said, I am from the DSS, Department of State Security, and would like to meet with you in our office. I said, that's fine. Where is the letter of invitation? He said, my bosses have it. I will escort you to them. I said, I'm going through immigration. I have to do that. Just get me the letter. So he said, okay. But I noticed that as I started going, more and more people came out. Apparently, I didn't know because I slept through most of the flight, and even when we landed, I didn't call any of my guys to learn what was going on. But apparently, they had moved about 50 DSS operatives to the airport with the specific instructions that I should be detained, I should be abducted and detained. I will come to other details. But so we started working, but I saw more people coming out. You know, I'm a politician, I'm used to crowds, I'm used to people surrounding me. And then as we moved forward, we came to the point that I either go right for immigration or left for the e-visa. And the two officers came forward, one big fat one and another about my height, and said, we are from the DSS, sir, we are going this way. We need to go to your office. I said, I'm not going to your office. I'm not going anywhere until you show me a letter of invitation. Your guy said you have a letter. He said, no, sir. I said, if you don't have a letter, I'm not going. You know my house. I live very close to the DSS headquarters. I can even walk down there if you bring a letter of invitation. So I tried to turn right, and they tried to force me to go left. I said, look, don't touch me. I'm going with my passport to have it stamped. And I'm not going where you want. He said, you have to go to where I want. I said, even the president cannot tell me I have to do anything. It's a free country, it's a democratic country, and I don't have to do anything that I do not wish to do. So you are just a middle level or senior civil servant. The president cannot tell me what to do. Don't say I have to. It's inappropriate language. And I turned right. By then, of course, some of the passengers had come and began to form a crowd. So I turned right and I moved on, presented my passport, it got stamped. And remember, before you stamp the passport, a DSS operative has to look at it and then hand over to the immigration officer. This were done. If there was any issue that is really official, the DSS operative would have told me we've been asked to hold your passport. So they stamped, gave me my passport, and I walked out. But these guys were still following me, saying I have to go with them. I said, you are wasting your time. I'm not going. I'm a citizen of this country, and I've been in government long enough to know the process, the procedure for any investigation. You are free to invite me, and I have been in government long enough to respect institutions. So just give me a letter of invitation. If you don't have a letter of invitation, forget it. I'm not going. But he felt that he could take me by force with the 50 armed DSS operatives he had. But by then, the crowd had become bigger. Passengers from the plane that came with me, as well as the people that came to receive me, now surrounded and said, that's not going to happen. They came up with a second scam. Where is your passport? I said, it's just been stamped. You saw it stamped. Yes, and then one of the immigration officers that is their surrogate said, no, we want to check something on the passport. I said, sorry, once the passport is stamped, it's my private property. And I held on to it. But one of my aides quickly took it away from me, maybe thinking that he would protect it better. That's the aide that got beaten up, and they seized the passport from him.
They beat him up?
They beat him up. If I had the passport with me, I would I would not be talking this. So this is essentially what happened. They were overpowered. They came with 50 people, but I think maybe 45 out of the 50 decided that this is not appropriate or this is not possible.
Right.
And I was actually quite touched, Charles, by the way people spontaneously, without any knowledge or any plan, decided that this must be resisted. And I think it portends a danger that the security agencies need to have a rethink. Because once people begin to lose confidence in the neutrality of such institutions, we are on our way to anarchy.
Right. So let's just be very clear. And thank you for explaining very lucidly what happened.
Yeah. But I want to add something.
Yes.
Because my lawyers issued a statement after that mentioning EFCC. I want to say very clearly, it wasn't the EFCC. Okay? It was the DSS.
Right.
But the DSS were procured to abduct me by the ICPC. That has never communicated with me ever, okay? The EFCC had written to me while I was away to say that I would like to have a chat with you over certain issues. And I replied, my lawyers replied that, well, I'm not in the country, I'm on my annual vacation. And once I know the date of return, I will let you know. And we have written to EFCC to say that, I will celebrate my birthday with you. My birthday is 16th February on Monday. I will celebrate my birthday. I will come and see you at 10 a.m. on the 16th. So it wasn't the EFCC. But my lawyer thought it was the EFCC, but it was not. Subsequently, we found out that it was the ICPC that procured the DSS to abduct me and then hand over to them. And this is a modus operandi of the ICPC that increasingly has become a personal tool of Nuhu Ribadu. Nuhu made the call and made the order that I must be in custody yesterday.
How do you know he made the call?
He made the call because we listened to their calls. The government thinks that they're the only ones that listen to calls, but we also have our ways. He made the call, he gave the order. And
so you tapped his phone calls, did you?
Someone tapped his phone and told me.
Because that technically is illegal.
I know, but the government does it all the time. They listen to our calls all the time without a court order. But someone tapped his phone and told us that he gave the order. So, but the EFCC, I think, has shown itself to be more professional in this particular instance. And on Monday, by the grace of God, I'll go and see them. Yesterday, around 5 p.m., the ICPC finally did the right thing, not the DSS that tried to abduct me, by bringing a letter to my house to say, we want to see you on Friday the 13th. My lawyer wrote back to say, guys, my client is not an idle person that has no program. He's just waiting for a letter from anyone. We've received your letter. We will, now that you've written an invitation, you've had the courage to write an invitation, we will honor the invitation. But on Monday, we are going to EFCC that has written before. So we'll go there. After the EFCC, we'll go to ICPC on Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know what the lawyer has written, but this. So this is the current state of things as far as we know.
Okay. Well, let me just make clear that the Office of the National Security Advisor has a right of reply, because that is how we operate journalistic fairness.
Absolutely.
So, because you've made an allegation against him saying that he essentially gave the order to come and pick you up.
Yes.
They have a right of reply if they so choose.
Yes.
But
and yesterday they met the National Security Advisor, the Governor of Kaduna State, and the Chairman of ICPC met, and they have decided that I must be abducted today.
Not arrested, but abducted.
Yeah, abducted because, arrest, people use arrest. They don't know that arrest has a legal meaning. Arrest means a lawful activity, with a warrant. The police have, under the Police Act, they have a clear, they can arrest you without a warrant. But every other agency must go to a judge and show cause, So when you try to take a person without a valid order, it's not an arrest, it's an abduction.
But critics might argue, and we could quibble over the law and the legality of it, but they might argue that once an investigative agency issues an invitation, timing is at its discretion, not yours. Why should the EFCC or the ICPC or whatever wait for your chosen date rather than compel attendance immediately?
If they want to compel attendance, they need a court order to convince a judge why time is of the essence. There is no law in Nigeria that says once you're invited on a particular date, you must go that instance. You have your life, you have your plans, and some things cannot be postponed. You may have business transactions that you lose millions of dollars. They are not going to compensate you if you miss those meetings. So the law does not give them blank check to call you at their convenience. If it is not convenient, your lawyer would write and negotiate and say, look, he will come at this time.
Right. Other critics might say that powerful politicians like you often frame investigations as persecution. Why should Nigerians see this as a constitutional issue and not simply due process catching up with you?
Look, Charles, I have been in public service from 1999 to 2007. I left, went into opposition for 8 years, and have been in government for another 8 years, okay? So I have 16 years record of public service. And I have challenged every Nigerian that has worked with me or knows me to come forward to you and expose me if I've ever taken a bribe or demanded a bribe or done anything unlawful in the course of my duties. Right. I have said that on national television. There are 250 million Nigerians to come forward and prove me wrong.
Well,
okay, so
yeah.
I'm coming.
Sure.
And in this latest round of persecution, I've been persecuted before by the Eradua Jonathan administration. That's all documented in my book, The Accidental Public Servant, where they investigated me ad infinitum and found nothing. In the end, I was charged to court for one alleged offense that in my tenure as Minister of FCT, in which I approved the allocation of land to 27,000 people and companies, one of the 27,000 plots was allocated to my wife. That's abuse of office. They lost. The judge abused the EFCC and warned them not to do things like that. So I have been through this. Now, this round of persecution was designed by the federal government, and they have used my successor, Ubasani, to be the enabler. They have investigated me since June 2023 in Kaduna and have come up with nothing. They have arrested my former chief of staff, my commissioner of finance, my commissioner of local government, virtually all our senior officials, my senior advisor, Councillor Jimmy Lawal. They have been interrogated. They have tried to pin things on them. They have charged them to court. Most of the charges are frivolous, and I'm quite confident they will lose. They will all be discharged and acquitted. They have not found anything. Well, in fact, right. Charles, they have got so desperate now, they have stopped going after those that have worked with me in Kaduna. They now randomly go after businessmen, private sector people that are suspected to be my friends. One of them has been in ICPC detention for 73 days today. Even though he has got an order from a court for him to be granted bail, they said they are not going to grant bail. Why? They are under orders. So this young man, Ahmad Sule of TMDK, has been in ICPC detention for 73 days without bail. They have procured a judge in Kaduna, by the whom I have submitted a petition to the NJC for his misconduct. They have used that judge not to grant him bail, to say, I will do accelerated hearing. And he will not accelerate the hearing. They want to keep him until after the elections because they suspect that he is the one that is funding the activities of the ADC. They have looked at his accounts for the past 3-4 years. They have found nothing. They have found absolutely nothing, but he's still in detention.
Right.
The person that took the story to them is a gentleman called Rahmania. I'm sure you've heard of the name. He went and said that this man's business is mine, that he was my fraud, even though I didn't know the guy until 2018 when he came to Kaduna to build something. So this administration has become desperate. They are determined to bring down everyone. They think that we are like them, that we were thieves in government. So they have done the investigation. They were sure they would find something. Till now, till tomorrow, they have found nothing.
Can I just come in here? Because, there are obviously an investigation is ongoing, and it could take a very long time.
Yeah.
And which is why, I'm not speaking for them, but arguably it is that they're moving it directly to you, which is why they're coming after you.
That's fine.
But without prejudice to any investigation, what exactly are the current allegations against you? And are you confident that every financial and administrative decision taken under your watch in Kaduna can withstand scrutiny?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Charles, in civilized countries, you don't start investigation by abducting a person or even arresting a person and keeping him while you're investigating. It's violation of human rights. You do your investigation, okay? Financial records today are largely electronic. They can't be hidden. You do your investigation, you get your records.
Yeah, but how do you know they haven't done their investigation, which is why they're coming for you now?
They have done their investigation and have found nothing. Okay?
Yeah, but you don't know that. You haven't answered to them.
I will go to them.
Right.
Charles, I've been around this system. I know what's going on, even in those institutions. I have an idea what's going on.
So are you suggesting that political motives are at play?
Absolutely. Look, some of the professionals in this institution feel very bad that they are being compelled. And when some of my guys that have been invited or abducted face them, when they finish all the questions, they tell them, look, we're sorry, but this is all political. Why don't you guys go and settle with them? Settle with them means what? Submit to be a member of APC, agree that Tinubu will have a second term. That's what it is.
Well, let me ask you a couple of rapid fire questions.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll have brief answers so we can move on.
Yes.
During your tenure as governor, were there any contracts, security expenditure, or financial arrangements you now believe could face scrutiny?
Each and every decision and action we took as government of Kaduna State was well documented. I'm probably the only governor that insists that recipients of security vote must sign. We want their names on the record, okay? The Commissioner of Internal Security has a wide degree of discretion to do things, but I've told him, keep your records, because one day questions will be asked. We are a heavily documented government, Charles.
Well, the reason
everything that has come to me, up to my level, for approval or endorsement, I have records. I have records.
Right.
So I'm not afraid of scrutiny, but I am not. But I am suspicious of malicious scrutiny.
Right. And so you should,
any scrutiny in good faith.
So you
I'm
should
fine
be.
with it.
So you should be.
Yeah.
But there are claims that your administration engaged in controversial security strategies, including alleged financial inducements to violent groups. I mean, did your government ever authorize payments of any kind to armed actors, directly or indirectly?
I am probably one of the few governors that from day one took the position on the advice of my security cabinet that we must never negotiate with cattle rustlers, with bandits. The position of the Kaduna State government when I was governor is the only repentant bandit is a dead one. We never negotiated that. We never did that. We never paid any group for kidnapping anyone.
Right. Okay.
In spite of the pressure. So anybody that claims that is just in another dreamland. Now, as far as I know, all right, the Commissioner of Internal Security brings me proposals for security spending. There is a standing order every month. If there is any special emergency, he brings and says, we want to do this, and I approve. He decides what he does with it, okay? If he chooses on his own to go and give money to what you call armed groups, I don't know about that.
Right.
But to the best of my knowledge, the position of our government as a government is that we don't negotiate with bandits, we don't pay them, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do this.
Looking back at your time as governor, do you believe your security approach in Kaduna State strengthened long-term stability or deepened divisions in the state? Because critics, including activists, even clerics, have alleged that dissenting voices were harassed and intimidated during your tenure.
Okay. Look, our security strategy in the state is two-pronged, okay? There were problems we inherited, okay, around communal violence, tribal intolerance, and so on, which Kaduna has a long history of. We had a security strategy for that. And then there are the emerging threats. When we first came, it was cattle rustling, which metamorphosed into banditry, okay? We had very clear strategy on that. Now, on the first set of security threats, we studied all the commissions of inquiries on previous acts of communal violence in Kaduna, and we came to certain conclusions. And around that, we developed a strategy of zero tolerance to any nonsense from any group that thinks that it can advance its interest through violence. I was very hard on that. I did not allow anybody to do that. And throughout my 8 years in Kaduna, we only had one instance of communal violence in December 2016, and I shut down the 3 local governments affected through Christmas and New Year. Let me land. Okay? And it never happened again because we took very decisive, clear steps that sent a message that something has changed. Okay? Now, but we knew that there are people that don't even live in Kaduna that make social media posts and so on that sometimes can ignite a problem in Kaduna. And I'll just give one quick instance. Somebody living in Port Harcourt or somewhere, or Lagos, said that some students of College of Education were killed.
Yes.
All right? And we checked. All right? The long and short of it was that because I called the commission of what's happening, how did this happen?
Yeah, that was a chap called Maidat Joseph. Was it Maidat Joseph or Luka Biniat?
No, Luka Biniat was stringing for Vanguard. It was a different...
he was stringing for Vanguard.
It was a different
Maidat
thing.
Joseph was Leadership newspaper.
Yeah.
Anthony Jacobson of Authentic newspaper.
I know Midat. Midat was a reporter for one of the newspapers.
Yeah, Leadership
Biniat, I remember. Okay, yeah. Biniat's issue was different. This one was a guy called Audu Maikori. He is the CEO of Chocolate City.
Yes, okay? Audu Maikori, the guy who was brought from Lagos.
Okay, he posted that, and we called him. We said, "Look, Audu, you tweeted this thing is false. Where did you hear this from?" Because we checked. The principal said this because the 5 students that were killed were journalism students. The College of Education doesn't do journalism.
Right.
All right? So we called, we said, look, go and admit that this is not true. Because this kind of reports can trigger retaliation from the people that, he stood by his story. So what would you do as a government? And this is what we did in each and every of those cases. Anyone that does something that we think is likely to cause communal violence in Kaduna from previous history, our Attorney General writes to the police and says, look, Charles has published ABC. We've reached him to retract. He has refused to retract. Please investigate him for injurious falsehood, incitement, blah, 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 under the penal code. That's what happened in the case of Audu Maikori.
Well, they said these were your political opponents, that you were essentially silenced.
Maikori?
For dissenting against.
Maikori, political opponent, the guy lives in Lagos.
Right.
He cannot get 10 votes even in his
But all
own
those
Look,
people I mentioned,
so this is what happened.
They all wrote articles that were critical of your government.
No, they didn't.
All of them did.
Look, no, they didn't. Midat Joseph and I are still in touch. We are good friends. We may have disagreed on something, but if you see any of them being... And what we did, as I said, is to write this. The police will investigate. And we tell them, investigate first before you go and get a person. They investigate. They invite. Audu was invited. He refused to come. So the Nigerian police is one. They brought him from Lagos and arraigned him. That's what we do. We arraign people before a court of law.
Right. Well, what about the still unresolved case involving one of your very fierce critics, a man known as Abubakar Idris Dadiyata, a lecturer and a social media commentator? He was, to use your word, abducted from his Kaduna home in 2019 by unknown gunmen and has remained missing to this day, nearly 7 years later. Amnesty International considers the case to be one of enforced disappearance, and many fingers point towards your government, which was in power in Kaduna State at the time. Are they right for their fingers to be pointed in the direction of your government? Because his protection is the duty of your government.
Charles, they are totally wrong, and what you have been given is not the correct thing. Dadiyata's timeline is still around. Go and study it. Dadiyata was not a fierce critic of Kaduna State government. He was a fierce critic of Kano State government. He's from Kano. He's a Konkosia guy. He lives in Kaduna and lectures at a university in Katsina State. He lives in Kaduna. But he's a fierce critic, not of Kaduna State. Go and review his timeline. Okay? It was Ganduje that was his problem.
But he was living in your state.
He was living in my state. But
so technically he is your...
No, of course.
He falls under your province.
Yes, but I didn't even know him. We only got the report of Dadiyata's existence.
Right.
Okay? And the fact that he lived in Kaduna State after his family reported to the police that he was abducted as he was returning home in the evening. And when we investigated, all that we could gather from his family was that the abductors came, took him, and they came from Kano. So if anybody is to be asked questions about the disappearance of Dadiyata, it's the Kano State government. It has nothing to do with Kaduna State government. We didn't even know he existed. And Charles, trust me, he was not a fierce critic. I didn't even know he existed until he was abducted. But till today, some people on social media ask me the question. I don't care. 3 years after Dadiyata was abducted, a policeman that was posted out of Kano to Ekiti State confessed to someone that they were sent from Kano and they took the guy, they abducted Dadiyata, and he felt bad about it. That's the only thing I know. But it was not a Kaduna State problem. He lived in Kaduna State and it was our duty to protect him. But how could we protect him when we didn't even know he existed or was a particular critic of Ganduje?
Right. Okay. Well, let's move on from there and to the what ought to be really the second part of this discussion.
Yeah.
Because you've been largely silent for a few months now. In Nigerian politics, silence is often strategy. Were you recalibrating? Were you regrouping? Or were you politically wounded by your own defection first to the SDP and subsequently to the ADC, which clearly has failed to unify the opposition as you had hoped? Because, I mean, you were talking about a unified opposition under the ADC. Or perhaps the tsunami of the other high-profile defections that are sweeping the opposition in what some have termed the betrayal of the opposition. I mean, I'm curious to know what your political calculations were and are.
Well, look, Charles, maybe the best way to answer it is to say all that you've described, there is a bit of everything, okay? But from my days in the construction industry, since I graduated from university, the construction industry has a culture of closing down mid-December and remaining closed till mid-January.
Yeah, but you hadn't spoken before that, though.
Pardon?
You hadn't spoken for quite some time before
No. I left this country in November because I planned to shut down through December and part of January. As I was planning to come back, I had a triple infection, bronchitis, malaria, and a viral infection I picked up in Dubai. And I was hospitalized for 5 days, which scared me because I've never been in hospital for more than one night in my life.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better now.
I'm fine now. I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I have all my medical reports that I will publish before anything happens. And they say, oh, he's always had ill health. I have perfect health, actually. So that was my plan. I took time off to do this, and I'm working on I'm writing a book that I haven't done much on, and I had to get away. But you are right. I had to, I had to evaluate the year 2025 and all that happened. I had great hopes in the SDP. I was heartbroken by what the SDP leadership did. But it's life, things happen, disappointments happen, and you move on. But I want to correct your mistaken impression that in the ADC we've not unified the opposition. We are unified. The leadership of the ADC is one. We are focused. We are We are determined to all remain together. We all agreed that among those that have presidential aspirations, only God knows who is the chosen one. But all have agreed that whoever emerges in free, fair, and transparent primaries will be supported by all. And the first stage in building this momentum is to do the membership revalidation, mobilization, and registration, which has been kicked off now. As soon as we finish that, we're going to go ahead with congresses, elect new leaders for the party, and have a non-elective convention where we will even promulgate a new constitution of the party. Immediately after that, of course, planning for primaries for the candidates will begin. So we are on course. We are not making as much noise in the media or in the public because of the intolerant political environment that this autocratic government is trying to impose on the country. But at the grassroots, where it matters, at the polling units, in the wards, we have penetrated every part of Nigeria. And what the people of Nigeria are looking forward to is for us to give them a decent and electable candidate. And this government is gone by the grace of God. So we've done that. I believe we've lost some time. We've lost a bit of momentum between July when we unveiled until the end of the year. But we are going to catch up. We are going to surprise this government. And I assure Nigerians that we are going to give them a very credible alternative platform and a candidate that will defeat President Tinubu in the next election.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm sure you've heard about this proposed bill before the US Congress, the Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act 2026, that has named Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso in connection with alleged religious freedom violations. I mean, that is clearly no small matter. When the American legislature invokes your name in the context of human rights, it raises the stakes far beyond domestic politics. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, first let me say that, as Nigerians, we should not get carried away and be pawns in what is essentially domestic political posturing, okay? Because this whole Christian genocide stuff and the latest bill is just the Republicans playing to their base, the Christian evangelical base in the US.
But why here?
It has nothing to do with Nigeria. No, I want to lay the foundation because it's not just about Kwankwaso. It's something that every Nigerian should be conscious about and know. So that's one. So all this posturing, let's know it for what it is. It has nothing to do about concern. It has nothing to do about this. It's domestic politics in the US. Secondly, I think it is heartbreaking for me as a citizen of Nigeria and someone that has been in the highest levels of government that as a government, as a country, we are unable to protect all our citizens, whether they are Christians or Muslims. Everyone is at risk. We all know that. And that, for me, is what we should be worried about. And it is clear that the country is not secure. The security architecture has failed. The personnel are incompetent or not doing the job. And we need to ask some very difficult questions so that is recalibrated, so that every Nigerian will feel safe. But coming to the matter of Kwankwaso, I think it is most unfair to tag Kwankwaso. And I'm trying to figure out whether it is the $9 million lobbying money that led to the list of Kwankwaso because Kwankwaso has refused to move to APC. Because the evil that this government is capable of is beyond your imagination, Charles. They may be behind it because Kwankwaso has refused to move to the APC, and there are rumors that he will move to the ADC.
Well, you're saying may be.
Yeah.
They may be behind it.
They may be behind it.
In
fact, I cannot think of anyone else because, look, 12 northern states implemented Sharia, okay? The first state to do so was Zamfara. I thought Zamfara should be listed there if at all anyone is to be blamed for this Sharia fiasco, all right? Kwankwaso followed suit like many other northern governors, and Kano was not very strict in even implementing Sharia. So he's not one of the governors that you say was a fundamentalist or, those that cut off the hands of that lady Jengebe or whatever. I walk in the streets, but they are in APC. Nobody is mentioning the states or mentioning Yerima Bakura. Nobody is mentioning Abdulaziz Yari. These are governors of Zamfara state that protected and promoted Sharia, but it is Kwankwaso that is being targeted. It makes me want to ask questions. Where is this coming from? So I think we should be very discerning as Nigerians and not get carried away.
Well, that's why we're asking questions, because nobody has quite those answers. I mean, we're running out of time.
Well,
quickly.
I hope my explanation contributes to the answer. I don't know whether that is the answer, but clearly, you know, we must not get carried away by some of these things.
Right. Well, let me ask you another big question, because the presidential election has now been announced to be the 27th of February, 2027. Are you running for president? I mean, you've talked quite a lot about the things that you'd love to see happen, the changes that you'd love to see implemented. You've said you've been let down by other people that you anointed as presidents before, or you supported. So really, the only way that you can push through the things you want to push through is if you're running yourself. So is that your intention?
Do you want me to run for president?
Well, I can't. I couldn't possibly comment on that.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking you the question.
Let me tell you, I have said this over and over. I'm not a candidate for any office. In fact, I ought to have retired. But for the disaster that I contributed in foisting on Nigerians, I would have been in Egypt, writing my books and completing my PhD and learning to be fluent in Arabic. That was my life plan after Kaduna. But what is happening. The country is in bad shape, and every Nigerian is suffering across religious, ethnic, regional, and whatever divide. Everyone is having to go through a lot.
So you're going to run for president?
And side by side with that, you know, you have this affluence and massive diversion of public resources to a few individuals. It hurts me a lot. But the decision to run for president has not been made by me. I have not made a decision to run for president.
But it's somewhere in the back of your mind, is it?
No. It's not at the back of my mind. There are people that have come out, have indicated their interest, and I think they will do a good job.
So are you saying definitively that you will not run?
No, look, you
or
cannot,
you're leaving that option open?
You never say never in politics. And 24 hours is a long time. Even if I tell you I will not run today, tomorrow it can change, because if all the leaders of my party, for instance, come and say, look, Nasir, you know, all those that are running have decided that they will leave it, you run.
Right.
Okay?
But for now, it's not your intention.
For now, no. It's not in my playbook.
Okay. Malam Nasir El-Rufai, I want to thank you exceedingly for giving us the privilege to have this exclusive interview with you. Nasir El-Rufai is the former governor of Kaduna State and former minister of the Federal Capital Territory of Abuja. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles, for
inviting me. And good to see you again.
Good to see you too.